Hey guys, welcome back. So now, as far as the Justice League and how they pulled off a huge win coming out the 6th dimension, but back on Earth, man, like in the 3rd dimension in this reality, it's looking bad for these guys. Because now we're stepping into Year of the Villain, to where the villains are winning, and if you ask me, the Batman Who Laughs is not getting enough credit. And I'll make that make sense in just a little bit. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so first things first, with the Justice League returning back to the 3rd dimension from the 6th dimension, and in a way concluding that saga to the point of where the World Forger is no longer their adversary but now their ally. Like, that was the only win, because aside from that, all of the other problems that they had are still there. And I say that because going all the way back to Dark Knight's Metal, the source wall was cracked, and that was the first sign of trouble. And then you have like your Justice League No Justice, which stirred up and created a lot of things too, like your Ghost Sector. But one of the bigger things that we really wouldn't see till later, which occurred in Justice League No Justice, like this was the moment for Lex Luthor, who at the time really was siding with the heroes, but towards the conclusion of this event, like the conclusion of Justice League No Justice, that's where the light bulb for Lex really went off, which gave us that first hint of him switching back to the villains. And this wouldn't be the first time somebody switched teams to win a title. It happens, it's all good. But in doing so, and knowing that he needed more information so that Lex would know how to execute his goal, he then sought out the counsel of the Batman Who Laughs, who we had first found out had survived everything from Dark Knight's Metal when he popped up in Immortal Men. And pretty much he was running around free because he had fled the scene when Barbados had got hemmed up. But not long after his appearance in the Immortal Men series, he was apprehended by Lex Luthor. And I use the word apprehended loosely because this is still a Batman we talk about. But it was at this point in time that we heard the name Perpetua for the first time, to whom I'm pretty sure the Batman Who Laughs had learned of her through Barbados, who at the time had fed the Batman Who Laughs plenty of intel. But during the time that the Batman Who Laughs was in Lex Luthor's custody, he had given Lex Luthor just as much information as he had wanted him to know at the time, because he had knew with the small bit of information, from there he could just trust Lex to be Lex. And so with giving Lex Luthor the name Perpetua, but then telling Lex Luthor that he is not at the center of the universe, but rather he needs to lose everything in order to gain what he truly wants. And this advice from the Batman Who Laughs, it is the reason that so much has happened to this point. It's the reason why Lex Luthor brought back Brainiac after being destroyed in Justice League No Justice. And in doing so, together immediately after, they had used both Starman and Kendra both as a catalyst to destroy the source wall and free Perpetua, who in return Perpetua had seen Lex Luthor and the Legion of Doom useful, but at the time we just didn't know how. But at this time, with Lex having gathered a number of the forces of Perpetua, to which he had discovered at the Legionnaires Club, which is another hint the Batman Who Laughs had told him to go to, because he knew they would find favor with Perpetua had they already unlocked some of her forces at the time of her release. And I won't go too much further into that. I got links down below that go way deeper into all of that. But the way that all of this comes together is at one point in time after freeing Perpetua and Lex Luthor learning secrets from his past, which had tied to Martian Manhunter, Brainiac hijacked Lex Luthor's mind, which really gave Lex Luthor the opportunity to show Brainiac what he believed needed to be done, which I gotta say reminds me a lot of the deeper understanding we got about the connection between Batman and Superman, both entering and leaving the 6th dimension, which ended up showing us how much greater they are working together, almost as if they couldn't reach their full potential without one another. And we get a very similar instance with Lex and Brainiac, because like I mentioned before, back when the Justice League was in the 6th dimension and Mxyzptlk was wreaking havoc here in the 3rd dimension, it was here where the Legion of Doom swooped in with Batmite and saved the day, which had made them the heroes to most, but Amanda Waller, of course, she had known better. And immediately after this had taken place, she had made her way to see the president in order to advise them with a plan of action against the Legion of Doom, to whom was already there. And they had made their way there so quickly because for what Lex has planned to do next, it is very time sensitive. And because of that, step 1, Lex Luthor needed to siphon classified information about the world's most dangerous people, because he is doing so with the intention of investing his entire fortune, billions, into some of the worst of the worst. And for those that he selected that are not villains, they're individuals that he's considered through the classified information he's commandeered, who will also contribute towards his cause. But all in all, for the most part, he's saying every villain, here's a check, take out your hero. And I can imagine there's people who are not even villains just saying, well, I'm a villain now, cut the check. But the way that Lex was really able to sell this is that with doing so, with announcing this, he literally just told the truth. He exposed the Justice League and told the world but because of their actions, the source wall is broken. And I mean, Lex left out the part where he gave them a little push to achieve that, but the message was time sensitive, so I guess that's why he left it out. But after emptying his funds, returning to LexCorp, and giving Brainiac his plans in its entirety as far as what he plans to do moving forward, when Captain Atom arrives here under military order with permission to use lethal force, Lex is like, there's no need for that because I'm gonna do it myself, essentially making himself a martyr and placing an exclamation point on his previous announcement. And with the Justice League, who just got back from the 6th dimension, like when they get this news, they quickly understand that every villain that they could think of, they are currently in the process of beefing up and upgrading to a whole different level, thanks to the Lex Luthor Villain Scholarship Program. And I mean, that's not really the name, but come on. But so of course, to counter this, the heroes call in every hero that they know, because as of now, this is the beginning of the war between Justice and Doom, which initially calls in every hero from the universe, but because we know that the greater issue reaches beyond the universe, this then takes us to the House of Heroes, to where the heroes of Earth Zero have gathered heroes from across the multiverse in order to strategize a plan of action. Because not only do you have the issue that Lex Luthor just set off, for lack of a better term, but you also have the issue of the multiverse that is threatened by Perpetua, who is not happy with his current form, so she pretty much wants to wipe the board and just start over. And so now Superman, who is hailing this meeting, he introduces the heroes gathered here to the World Forger, who is one of the 3 sons of Perpetua, along with the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. And so pretty much the plan that they come up with here, it follows much to what the World Forger had said before, that he must find his brothers, the Anti-Monitor and the Monitor, because together the 3 of them are the only chance of standing up to Perpetua. And as for the other heroes, their job is pretty much to get everyone ready for the worst case scenario that could pop up from whichever villain that Lex has funded that could just pop up out the blue. And because of that, you have mainly Kendra and Martian Manhunter, along with really your Justice League of Earth Zero, who's watching over these multiple different groups, to where like back at your Hall of Justice, you have one room where your most brilliant minds, they're attempting to make their predictions to where the first attack could come from. Then you also have your group of detectives who are doing the same, but in their case not working out so well as a team because most of them like to work alone. And then you also have Hawkman and Canary, who are preparing the Titans and others to be combat ready when it actually goes down. But so now through the course of actually executing this, we also come across your members of the Justice League from Earth Zero, who've made their way out to the Garathian system, which is much like the Leviathan galaxy, being that it was at the edge of the multiverse and being adjacent to where the source wall used to be. And during a safe evacuation mission, Batman notices a ship going towards the void instead of heading away from it. And it's at this time where Superman literally crashed into the ship in order to turn it around and set it back on course, that the priest who was flying this ship, he had told Superman that rescuing these people was futile and that Perpetua's great minion will soon rise. And Superman was like, alright, whatever, we turning around. But actually it was at this time that the Justice League had actually got the notion that Lex Luthor wasn't actually dead. And much of that credit gotta go to Wonder Woman, because she mainly put 2 and 2 together with the fact that Lex Luthor has been campaigning for Perpetua so hard for so long, and it would only make sense that his act as a martyr had some sort of greater purpose for Lex Luthor to end up gaining more than what he lost. And for the record, he lost a lot. I'm talking about his life and billions. But in comparison to what he's trading it for, to pretty much becoming the 4th son of Perpetua, and with doing so becoming an intelligent version of this Martian human hybrid, which is a combination which originated from Perpetua's original plans, but prior to Lex Luthor they were very primitive. But in this case, Lex will have their physiology and his own intelligence. In accordance to what we've learned from the Martian Keep and the World Forger, Perpetua's intentions for these Martian human hybrids was also to share her power with them for her protection. But also real quick as a reminder, this is also a callback to the new history that we got in recent issues of Justice League, where it was revealed that Lex's family, from the time that he was a child, they were making their attempts to bring back Perpetua's army. And for her, she sees this as Lex fulfilling his destiny, because according to her plans, he's to be the first of many. But knowing Lex in his recent history with Brainiac, it's very likely that he has plans of his own, of which are probably sending him back at the center of the universe. Which of course bring me back to the Batman Who Laughs, who once again is trusting Lex Luthor to be Lex Luthor, because he knows with the hints that he's given Lex Luthor that he would figure it out. But when it comes down to execution, he just knows that Lex Luthor refuses to play second fiddle, and because of that, it makes Lex predictable. And so now last but not least, I do have to mention that on Lex Luthor's list before he had seemingly died, he had mentioned that he would have some unlikely allies, to where we quickly get a glimpse of Thomas Wayne, Bane, and Psycho Pirate. And Bane, even though he's been doing his own thing, I can kind of see that. But Thomas Wayne from Flashpoint and Psycho Pirate, like these are some of the guys I was saying to look out for Doomsday Clock, and mainly Psycho Pirate. But I gotta admit, seeing them land here, standing in front of others who seem to have been converted to a form of the Martian human hybrid, this just gets me excited because it just opens up a whole nother can of possibilities. And so now for the last thing, and I'm pretty sure I said that about the last thing, but for real this time. So now as far as Martian Manhunter, who's a bit of a detective himself, and if he wasn't, his name would just be Martian, not Martian Manhunter, but he had actually taken it upon himself to investigate this urban legend of sorts that fed into the belief that Lex Luthor was still alive. And with many of these whispers of Lex still being alive after his death, and many mentions of this mysterious hooded figure who was helping people make their cruelest desires a reality, and all this information had led to a recent sighting at this house, which I believe is the same rundown house that we had seen Lex at before, that was previously the location of the Legionnaires Club. And so when Martian Manhunter goes there to check it out, only to find out that he's being followed by somebody who's blocking his telepathy, when he sees who's following him is Lionel Luthor, which is a crazy surprise because my first thoughts is like, didn't Vandal Savage like lobotomize this guy? And mainly because Vandal Savage felt like Lionel Luthor was going a bit too far with the research, talking about the 6th dimension and him finding out Lionel's brothers experimenting on Martians. Vandal Savage was like, whoa, you're doing too much. And so he essentially wiped his mind as far as what Lex knows, and that's essentially what caused Lionel Luthor's life to start spiraling down. But he's back. And that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, there are a lot of shifting pieces, and after so much taking place, I just don't see things going back to normal after when this is all said and done. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know down below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.